This video is about the filter examples operator, which allows examples within example sets to be included or excluded from subsequent processing. You might do this for many reasons, such as to eliminate examples where attributes have certain values or are missing. We'll look at the condition class and invert filter parameters that this operator takes. In version 6, the condition class operator has two new possibilities, so we'll mention those briefly. And the way we'll show this operator is to use an example set that I've created specially, which has a number of attributes which are real or missing, and also labels with missing values and predictions. The process looks like this. It's quite simple actually. This process here, operator here rather, is the sub-process operator, which creates some data. I won't show you how that's done, that's not important for this. Each of these are filter examples operators, and each one of these is basically set up with a different condition class parameter. So if I do this, you can see these are all the possible values that the condition class can take, and there are actually 10 of them. And you'll see that I have named each of these operators with a name that corresponds to the condition class. The outputs from these are all connected up to the output on the right here. The first one is connected to this one called all. The second one is connected to the one called correct predictions, and so on. The very last one is actually the original data set that's come from the sub-process operator. So this allows us to look at the unfiltered data. Now let me put back the default perspective to make everything neat. The 11 outputs, now when I run this, 11 tabs will appear, and the topmost tab will be this one here, which is the original output from the sub-process where the data is created, and the tab at the rear, at the right and the rear, is this one here at the top from this view. So if I now run the process, we can see all the tabs, and you can see the names in the tabs correspond to the names of the processes. So we should now be able to work out very easily what's going on. Let's start with this view here. This is the original data, 40 examples, 5 special attributes, 16 regular attributes. If I click on the statistics view, you can see some detail here. There are 16 regular attributes. If I scroll off, you'll see them. Here they are. And there's a sort of scattering of missing values. Then there are 5 special attributes. The important ones for this video are the label and prediction classes. And you can see there are actually 4 missing labels in this data. So now what we will do is look at each of the result tabs one by one. Let's start with example set all. So if you remember, the condition class in this case is just simply all. Let's look at it just in case memory isn't your friend. Condition class all. Okay, so going back to the results view, basically this lets through all of the examples. So if you remember, there were originally 40 in the inputs data, and this output shows 40 examples. So no filtering has been applied. You may think that's a bit pointless, and you'd probably be right, but this lets us illustrate what the invert filter flag does. If I set that, run the process again, what we'll see now is the opposite of all, which is none. So you can see now the result of that is 0 examples. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I'll put this back, save it, because I'm feeling as though I need to be neat. Okay, running the process again. So let's now go through these other tabs one by one. So correct predictions. Now in the original data, if you remember, there was a prediction special attribute and a label special attribute, and basically what this setting does in the filter examples operator is to say if those two match, then the filter is okay and the example can be let through. So there are 34 examples where the prediction and the label are actually the same. And the next one along is the wrong predictions. So this is where the prediction and the label are not the same, including missing. And there are 6, so 34 plus 6 is 40, so the math still works. So that's the correct predictions and wrong predictions settings of the conditional class. Of course, you could just use the invert filter, so one of these is actually not really required. But anyway, this is just the way it is. Next one is no missing attributes. So this is basically letting through examples which contain no missing attributes whatsoever. If you look at the statistics view, you can see that for the single one that's made it, indeed that's the case. There are no missing attributes at all. The next tab along is missing attributes. So this filter is basically letting through any example which contains at least one missing attribute. Sure enough, we can see that's what's happening. If I were to scan along here, you'd see that each one of these examples has at least one question mark, which is a missing value. Next one is, let's look at, when we go back to here, no missing labels. Missing labels are the next two I want to look at. No missing labels is this one. So in the original data, those with good memories will remember that there were 4 where the label had a missing value, so this leaves 36. I've made it through. Sure enough, true to form, the missing labels condition class will only let 4 through, and sure enough, there are 4 missing values in this column corresponding to the label. Now we'll go back just to refresh our memories. The final 3 are the most flexible ones. Attribute value, which exists in version 5, expression, which is new in version 6, and custom, which is also new in version 6. So let's deal with attribute value first. So we find attribute value. Now we'll have to look at the actual parameter and how it's set up, but the result of this is 10 things have made it through. Let's actually look at the condition class in that situation, and we're actually saying, okay, the attribute value filter says col adj equals something. Now this is an example of a regular expression. So what this is actually saying is that the column col adj, there is a column called that, if it equals, or if it matches this regular expression, which means match anything, then match TC in that order, then match anything. If that condition, if that regular expression is true, then the example will make it through. Let's have a look at the results again. So if we go to col adj, here it is, you can see that that is indeed the case. Each of the ones that have made it through have TC somewhere in them, and you can see TCF is also there, as well as beg your pardon, just TC and TCF. So presumably, if we now think we know what we're doing, we could do an invert filter on that. Let's see if we get the right answer that we expect. Attribute value, yes, sure, 30. So now the col adj column, whatever that is, now should not contain TC at all. I think if we scroll down, I think we can convince ourselves that's the case. Okay. Now, in general, you can get quite complicated in there, and you can actually use and or expressions in this field as well. But generally speaking, the custom version in version 6 is actually better. But you can actually get quite powerful, quite complicated filter expressions going with this. Macros will also work in here. So now let's move on to the expression condition class. So now I've set the condition class to be expression, and now I'm putting again an expression in here, and this is very similar actually to the attribute value thing, except it's actually a bit simpler. So what I'm basically saying in this is that if the duration attribute is greater than 2, then the filter is okay, and then all the data will make it through. So if I go to the results view and look at the expression tab, basically if you remember, if duration is greater than 2, the filter will be true and the example will make it through. In this case 13 examples had duration greater than 3. Let's look at the final one, which is the custom condition class. Now this is more flexible again, and you actually have to click on this button here to see the filters that I've created. So I'll click on that, and now this is essentially an extension really of the expression condition class. Now I can put in here an attribute. I can then put a condition in here and a value. If you click on this button here, it gives you a view of the range of the attribute, quite handy. And you can go on adding, by pressing the add entry button, more and more of these, and you can decide whether you want to AND them or OR them together. At the moment I've said if the duration is 2 and wage inc first is 4.5, only when both of those is true should I let the filter be true and therefore let the example through. So if we go to the results view and look at custom, there are 5 that match that. Remind ourselves of the condition. 2, 4.5. 2, 4.5. Sure enough. If I go back to the design view and change this to match any, now I'm expecting to see more examples make it through. Sure enough, if we click on the custom thing here, now there are 19 have made it. So now duration 2 or wage inc first 4.5 is really what we're seeing in these two columns. Okay. So you will find that you'll use this the filter examples operator a great deal actually. So it's worth spending time just learning how it works and getting to grips with it and so on.